Hey everyone, welcome to another Canvas tutorial. This one is going to focus on an integration that is built into Canvas and is available for you and your students to use. I'm going to take a look at an assignment that I have created here that is teaching philosophy of a technology using Educator, and I'm going to edit the settings for this assignment. Now, when you create your assignment, you normally have the place to put the instructions, the point value, etc. One of the things I want to point out is that as far as the submission type for this assignment, I have made this one only available to be a file upload. Now, that means a student can upload a PDF or a Word document as completing this assignment. One of the things that you can change when you're talking about assignments like this is whether or not you want them to have an unlimited amount of attempts or a limited number of attempts. Keep in mind that if you limit an assignment to one attempt, you sometimes have to override and add a new version. Like if somebody submits it and then you're going to give them the ability to resubmit it, you would actually add another submission, but not add it for everyone. You could just add it for a specific student that's in your course and then give them a new due date, etc. So it's kind of like a user override. But that's not really the part that I want to show you. What I want to show is the fact that after I've set up my assignment for a file upload and figured out how many attempts I'm going to give them, I also have a plagiarism review that is usually defaulted to none. I am going to turn on the TurnItIn plagiarism view. Now, this is going to really help store these papers. If you choose to do that, you can store them in a repository for WLC so that it can match student papers against papers that are submitted in the future. I like to compare the submissions against really anything that seems appropriate. Sometimes it's only really necessary to compare against a student repository because it might just be a reflection paper or something that is relatively unique to WLC. In other cases, you can have it compare against website content and periodicals. As far as a similarity report, you can have it exclude some of these materials or not. This is up to you. And whether or not you want the grammar checker to actually run a report as well. These are all optional. You don't have to do anything with them. I use the advanced for the ETS handbook, the US dictionary, and I just keep all those things enabled. Now, what's really important is, do you want students to see that report? You can have that report submitted to students immediately after they submit it. That way they know right after they're done, like, here's how it goes. And then that's pretty common in some areas where it's like, hey, you need to have, like an originality score of a certain percentage, or it's not really acceptable. So students can see it and then resubmit. Sometimes people only want it viewable to students after they've graded the assignment or after the due date for the assignment. I prefer after the assignment is graded. If I am going to do that, that way once I've graded the assignment, the student has access to the report that I may have used. It's also possible to never give this back to the student. I just wanted to show that is all you have to do to set up this assignment as far as the student is concerned. So I want to go ahead and actually show you now what it looks like for a student when they submit that assignment. So I'm going to go into that course. I've created a test student here, and I'm going to go into the modules and jump on down to this assignment. And I'm going to imagine that I've read and already did everything. I'm going to hit the start assignment, and here's where I have this upload file. So I'm going to find a file and upload it to the, I'm going to find a file and upload it as if I were the student. All right, so I have uploaded a file here. I could add more if I needed to. And you'll notice here there's an I agree to the tools end user license agreement. So this is me as a student uploading my file, hitting the submit button. Once I've done that, apparently I get a little bit of graffiti as a student, and that file has been uploaded. So I can look at this because I have done this. I can look at the submission details, and I'm going to see a few things right here as far as feedback, etc. Because mine's open, I could resubmit this assignment. Now, You'll notice this little similarity score that is pending as a student. It's not going to be done immediately. So both the student and the faculty member are going to need to wait for that similarity score to get processed. In the meantime, I am going to go and do some other things. I'll come back later and finish this video. All right, so I've come back and I'm still in my student view. I'm just going to go back to the beginning and say like, oh, I'm a student. Here's my 8.1. I can look at the submission details. I could probably also see some of those things under the grades or the syllabus. I have submitted this, and you'll notice over here there's an originality report that shows up because I'm making this available to students. So I'm going to take a look at this originality report, and then I'm going to show you what it looks like from the teacher end of it. So here, because this is the first time I've done it, I'm agreeing to the TurnItIn end user license agreement. You can take a quick tour. It'll show you most of the things I'm going to show you anyway. Typically, what people are looking for is this match overview. Now, what's really interesting about this is I actually, as an example, I submitted a paper that I had given to a Wells Teachers and Pastors Conference years ago. So the interesting part about it is if I clicked at this match overview, you're going to notice that this was submitted to Wisconsin Lutheran College. It's not going to show me anything about it. That still remains the intellectual property of the authors, instructors, etc. So they're not going to show me the content of the paper. If you'd like to view it, you can request permission from all of the parties involved. However, I'm pointing this out because I have submitted this paper in the past as an example to Wisconsin Lutheran College. And so now it's showing me, hey, this is like a 90% match. And it's showing those things that are all highlighted from the paper. So I think I submitted a draft of it before, or maybe this is a draft, not exactly sure. A couple other things. Without that, I can turn that layer off, and I can just look at this ETS rater, which is just going to go through and kind of give me an idea on some of my spelling, grammar, and other types of mistakes. It's kind of ugly looking, so I wrote this 20 years ago, and apparently I was not as good. But again, some people will also talk about the fact that, you know, whether or not some of these things are actually correct, that's really debatable. So you can use or not use that. I do like to give it to students as an example, just as another way to kind of help improve their writing. So my personal opinion, I like to share this with students. Depending on my goal for the student, I'll do it immediately or I'll do it later. So let's go back to the grade area. Like now I'm a teacher. I'm coming in here and I see that I am going to grade this assignment. Now there's a lot of ways you could do it. One way is just to go to the actual grade book. I'm not going to click on that because I have students in this course. So I'm just going to jump on down to the actual assignment. And you're going to notice that there is a submission here that needs to be graded. Now I could download it and grade it on paper. I like to use the speed grader that is available right here. The speed grader is really nice because in most papers it opens up, you know, an ability for me to kind of scroll through. I have things like a highlighter where I can highlight. I can make text notes to students. I can cross things out. I can just use pen tools, whatever you want. You can use different colors. Lots of different abilities for you to do that. I've heard it works really well on a tablet. I have not yet used it using the Canvas Teacher app, which is available on Android and iOS devices. But what you are going to see is right over here is where that originality report is. And it's saying this is 90% plagiarized. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean it's plagiarized. That's just a score. You sometimes have to do a little bit more investigating. In this case, if I click on it as the teacher, I'm going to get a very similar report to what I had as the student. And I can look and see like, oh, the 90%. Where is that from? It was a student paper. I'm also going to point out that this paper was uploaded. If I open that up, this paper was also uploaded to joshandjen.net, one of my websites from like 20 years ago that does not exist anymore, but TurnItIn still knows it was there. So you can find a lot of different areas where you can say like, hey, this is, from essays at wells.net. It'll try to find the thing and show you, kind of in context so you can kind of compare and do whatever. So that's all for you to use and decide, whether or not this thing is plagiarized, etc. But there's really no extra step involved except for when you are setting up the assignment, deciding on the file upload if you want to use TurnItIn, and then what kind of reports you want it, what do you want to compare it against, and what do you want as far as like grammar and usage, and whether or not you want this shown to the students immediately, later, etc. So hopefully that gives you an idea on how TurnItIn gets used. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask.